From NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rant. Got a nice show for you today. I think the portal basically said. I think we're going to know more or less what this basketball team is going to look like next year. We'll talk about spring football wrapping up. Big draft news. Some good news for this program and its leader of the last couple of years. UConn's back on the schedule. We've got like a ton of questions, good questions. Where do you want to start?
Well, before we get into any of that, Steve, I have a bit of a out of left field question for you. Because people were asking me this all day yesterday. I'm going to show you a photo. I want you to tell me what crime did this person commit?
Oh boy. Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, I think that's at least a DUI. That person blew like a .213 on the old at the precinct. Yeah.
Did the cross-eyed eyes give that away? Is that the hint? To me,
it's just a guilty look. That's what it is. It's just this feeling. And if you're not on, I'm going to say this, if you're listening on Spotify, this photo is making the rounds on the internet. Because we won a major award. We're happy to say, yes, you and I, APSE is that's our Pulitzers for sports writing, first place, breaking news. You guys can guess what what possibly could those two clowns win breaking news for? I think you pretty much, as Rutgers fans, can get a pretty good guess as to what that was. Very exciting. But then to give you some background, they announce it on the Twitter, and the announcement goes out, and there's two photos of the two of us. And this, again, a nice accomplishment, nice award for us that nobody gives a crap about journalism wars. I get it. But there pops up, and then there's that photo. Put it up again on the screen, that photo. That photo comes up of Brian, and instead of which is great, instead of the reaction is congratulations, fellas. It's, oh my God, they won an award and Brian's DNA is on the murder weapon. That was basically the reaction we got from that.
Well, to me, I think the crime was being criminally handsome. They said, sir, you're too handsome and we got to put you in jail. You can't be in polite society. People are going to go crazy over you. So here's the thing. I said I was going to explain this to people because I had received more messages about this one photo than anything in my life. It was unbelievable. The barrage of texts of people saying, wow, the APSE did you dirty with this photo. Brian, did you get arrested? Was this your mugshot? Who did this to you? I did this to me. Here's the thing. Our boss, Jimmy Haskup, let us know the news beforehand, and they asked us for headshots. And in the system, there are headshots already. The issue is, here was the other option.
Now, this is where you went wrong, because this right here, to me, when I saw this photo, I was like, hey, look at this. Not only did this guy win a major award, this guy's in a Portuguese boy band. I mean, this guy's getting laid this weekend. That's the first thing I thought when I saw that photo. Look at that. That's a handsome dude right there. That'd been great. But you could have, what's it called again? Screen mocks me. You could have mocked me right off that screen. That what it is?
I could have mogged you,
mogged me. You could have mogged me right off that award. And then people would be like, oh my God, Fonseca won an award. Who's some other old guy won one too? I don't know. He couldn't possibly have been involved in that. That is the photo you should have used. I maintain that strongly.
I think almost everyone will agree with you, but here's the issue, Steve. I have integrity. I did not want to catfish the good people of the APSE, of the sports writing community, of the Rutgers community, because people have seen me in person in the 10 years since this photo was taken. I look a little older, quite a bit fatter, and just less handsome than I used to when I was, the lead singer of the Batupe Boys, or whatever you want to call my Portuguese boy band. So I wanted to have integrity. And that photo, which I will again pull up, no, it's not my greatest photo. It's my passport photo, if you want me to be totally honest with you. But you know what? I don't think I look that bad. That, to me, was the biggest reaction of all. I could kind of see the mugshot deal. I don't think I look that bad. I think, listen, I'm not quite the guy who went viral for his mugshot and ended up being a model, right? I'm not quite at that level. But I also don't think I look like, Shrek, okay? I think it's perfectly fine. My only regret is that it took away from the excellent journalism that both of us did to earn this award. And if we had a speech, I would say two things. one, I'm sure many people are shocked we didn't win the clickbait headline of the year award, because that's what everyone thinks that we do. We actually do some journalism around here every once in a while.
Yes.
And two, I want to thank Rutgers for being Rutgers, because without Rutgers being Rutgers, this would literally not be possible. Most people don't pay attention to Rutgers in the college sports universe, in the sports writing universe. Let's be completely honest. But in the last couple of years, we have gotten a couple top tens, and now I get my first place because Rutgers is Rutgers, and they allowed us to do this.
If there's Rutgers being Rutgers or Pat Hobbs being Pat Hobbs, but either way, it worked. One last thing, I'll send on the photo. You see, submitting the old photo. If you have my photo, which again, someone pointed out to me, Fooch, of course. But how old's that photo? And in fairness, my photo, the one I used, is older than your photo. Right. And I have a defense on that, because I would have used a newer photo, but in the time between the older photo being taken and the newer photos, I aged. That's it. That's Harry. That's a guy who's got his entire journalism career in front of him right there. Newspapers are going to succeed. Nothing's bad happening to that guy. He hasn't had kids yet. That guy right there. That's like 2008, that photo. You're worried about, if you were to use a photo as old as mine, it would have been like your rec soccer photo when you were 7. That's how old that photo is.
It would have been my ultrasound my mom got in like the second trimester. No. If this is 2008, then I was 12 years old, if that makes you feel any better. Which I looked about 12 years old in this photo, which is why I didn't use it.
That guy.
Anyway, so that's how we're a nice little balance. I don't like to catfish the public. You gladly catfish the public.
Okay with that. Yep.
You do a majority of the work, and I ride your coattails, and we both get an award, and here we go. So,
well, in fairness, that story, that's the first award I've ever won for a writing award for a story I did not write. So that was good. I was proud of that fact in itself.
There we go. You helped in the process. Let's be clear there. And anyway, I think the 7 minutes of masturbatory talk about us winning an award and roasting ourselves about our photos is enough for the audience. I think there are a core group of Rutgers Rant people, mainly the people that texted me yesterday, that will enjoy this talk. I think the people that rightfully say, these guys don't always just talk about Rutgers football all the time. Why am I watching this podcast?
Yes,
they're going to feel vindicated. So let's get into the Scarlet Knights. And
there is a podcast category that we have not won. So maybe next year we can actually, something tells me that's not good.
Well, I think we can't submit this episode on account of I just used the word masturbatory. I think that's going to be probably against the rules, but we move on.
Either way. All right. So there you go. We had a good time with that on the Twitter. Thanks to everybody who texted us and commented and made fun of us because we had a good time with us, put us in our place. All right. Where do you want to start? You want to start with football? Because I think that's kind of like the biggest thing. Some good news for the program. I was surprised. I don't know if you were surprised. I did not think Ethan Kalikmanis was going to get drafted. But once he did, and once the Commanders took him in the 7th round, it made crystallize in my head why he got drafted. And it was for all the right reasons. I mean, the guy did the process exactly right. Took every opportunity, took every visit, sat in every meeting, like anything that you put in front of Ethan and said, go, he did. And he did it well. Like he really did own that draft process. And those are the guys who get taken in the 7th round. I mean, those are the guys who are like, all right, this is a good organizational player. This is the guy we want around our team. This is the guy who's going to show up and work. Like, I think that's really what happened here. What do you think?
I totally agree. And I think people that watched the video of his presser with the local media after getting drafted this week on our YouTube channel could see that kind of professionalism and the personality shine through and understand it. And I think I'm glad Rutgers fans got to see that because, for whatever it is, they don't get to see that part on video, at least from hearing from the players at Rutgers. So he was able to kind of shine publicly in that regard once he gets to the NFL. I always knew he would interview well. I always knew he would present really well. My question was always, did he do enough on the field to convince these NFL teams to take a shot on him? And you're always kind of at the mercy of the risk reward for teams in the 7th round. Is it worth drafting a guy? Is it worth waiting for a UDFA? I think Washington clearly saw someone that, listen, he's not going to be the starter, right? Even Ethan said this. It's Jaden Daniels' team. He's going to be the quarterback there for a long time. But Ethan could easily be a guy who is a long-time backup in this league, a guy teams trust that in a pinch he could come in and help, a guy who they trust will steer the starting quarterback in the right direction. Ethan does everything entirely correct. He's a good person, never even a whiff of trouble in his college career. And I think if you're an NFL team looking for a high upside player, right? Like there are a lot of quarterbacks he was picked over who had some college production, but you're not quite sure they had that next gear. Eighth got better in both years he was at Rutgers. He took a step forward his first year, and he took a huge leap forward his senior year. And if you're looking at that trajectory, you feel like there's more gas in the tank. He has the physical tools between the size, between the arm talent, and he has it all together here. So I think it makes sense for Washington, and I think the kid is thrilled to be picked for that organization. And I think Rutgers fans should be thrilled that, a really good guy who was in their program, represented them really well, and who will represent them very well in the NFL, got to live out his dream and get drafted.
Yeah. And now, like, this is not, like, it would not surprise me if he's a Tommy DeVito in a couple of years. And by that, I mean a guy who hangs around, calamity happen, like bad stuff happens. Jaden Daniels gets hurt. Marcus Mariota, whoever the backup will be back then, is not up to the level or gets hurt too. Like, and all of a sudden he's thrown into this situation on a team that's, in a bad place and handles it well. And Tommy DeVito just got another big contract. He's still in the league. Like like once coaches learn they can rely on you, you're going to stick around. And I think I saw Dan Quinn's interview about him and the quarterback coach. I mean, they were very gushing when talking about him. I think for a reason. I think they have high expectations for him. I think he's going to be a coach in that room as well. Yeah, I mean, I think he has got he's got a good future to stay on a roster for a while. That's my guess. I would be very surprised if he is out of the league soon. That's how I would break that down.
I would expect him to be, again, a reliable backup for, maybe not entirely for the Commanders, but he will, if he has to, bounce around the league for a while. But I just think he'll stick around because of the intangibles, right? Like his on-field talent is what it is, but I think he really sticks out, like, off the field as a good influence, as a guy who cares. And he said, like, he will be willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win, even if he's not playing. And a lot of players say that. Pretty much every player says that. Yeah. I believe that wholeheartedly when Ethan says that. My question to you now is, though, so Ethan could be, he's the third quarterback in program history to get drafted, the first since Mike Teal. He could be the 8th player in program history to throw a pass in a regular season NFL game. He would be, well, I guess first, I don't know if you saw the tweet where I listed all the names this weekend.
I couldn't even begin to give you that. I mean, Mike McMahon is one of them, right? I assume.
Mike McMahon is one of them.
Did Mike Teal throw a pass in? I don't.
Not in a regular season game.
Not. Yeah, I didn't think so. My goodness, Ray Lucas, obviously.
Correct.
We have to be going back into the long ago.
There's one more Shiano quarterback who you might not be thinking of because he transferred out.
Oh yeah, of course. What's his face?
Tom Savage.
Tom Savage. Yes, of course.
Yep.
Right.
Now I'm gonna read you the other ones because you will never guess.
Okay.
First, it's the last Rutgers player, not Rutgers quarterback, the last Rutgers player to throw a pass in an NFL
Mohamed Sanu.
2018, the last Rutgers player. Yes. Statistically, the greatest quarterback in the history of the National Football League, Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah.
He's one. Jack Grossman, who played sometime, I think even before the NFL-AFL merger, a long time ago. Nick Prisco, I think also an old-timey guy. I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me, but Nick Prisco, a name I'm sure very few Rutgers fans would remember. So we have Mike McMahon, Ray Lucas, Tom Savage, Jack Grossman, Ray Prisco, Mohamed Sanu. And I think if I gave you 1,000 guesses, you wouldn't get the same. You covered it.
I won't even try then. Give me.
Ray Rice.
Ray Rice. Of course. That makes sense. No, I should have thought that way. I was going to say Brian Leonard, but Ray Rice. Yeah, I can see a little halfback pass from Ray. Was it completed?
I think it was. While I look that up, my question to you is: will Ethan become the 8th? Do you think he will throw a pass in a regular season NFL game?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, why not? Yeah. I mean, the number of guys at the end of these seasons who end up throwing passes, like, that's not, wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you're going to take Jaden Daniels out of a lot of games. You don't want him getting hurt in the fourth quarter. I think Ethan can get to the status where he's the backup. I could totally, I would say 80% yes, in fact.
I would agree with you for all those factors. He's currently going to compete for the QB3 job against Sam Hartman. The sense is he has a good shot at winning it. And then, like, you're right, Marcus Mariota isn't going to be in the league forever. These backup quarterback situations are always fluid. Absolutely agree. I have bad news. Ray Rice did not complete the one pass.
No, that's a shame. That's a shame. That's a good piece of trivia, though. The guys, I should make a list of the guys who you would have expected to throw a pass in the NFL that did not for Rutgers. That'd be kind of funny. That's probably a longer list than, I mean, I might be a little surprised. He was a 6th-round draft pick, I think. But yeah, that's really, and it does speak to the quarterback situation. Who is the most? Ray Lucas must have the most passes of any Rutgers quarterback, I'm sure. Or did Tom Savage?
I don't have it up. I wish I had it up. All right, passing. The most passes?
Yeah.
You said Ray Lucas?
I did.
He's number 2.
Oh.
He threw 32 less passes than number 1.
Just Tom Savage.
He was your first guess.
Right. Who is it then?
So it's Mike McMahon.
Mike McMahon, really? Huh.
He attempted 515 passes. Ray Lucas attempted 483 passes. Amazingly, Mike McMahon played 29 games while Ray Lucas played 55.
Wow, that is something. That is to me. That is something. Yep.
And then number 3 is the only other player who threw more than 100 passes. Tom Savage threw 315.
Okay.
Jack Grossman threw 75. Mohamed Sanu threw 8. Nick Prisco threw 2. And Ray Rice threw 2. I lied. Great. Ray Rice looks like he did complete 1. He's 1 of 2.
Okay. 1 of 2.
A 1-yard pass for a touchdown.
There you go. See? Nice. Good stuff. Good piece of trivia. There you go. All right. Other news, the current quarterback situation still unresolved, spring practice. I did like the UConn back on the schedule tidbit was funny. I thought in a lot of ways they would never play UConn again. I think that shows you how much the sport has changed. Like, I don't think Greg Schiano wanted to play UConn for a million reasons, recruiting reasons, wanted to kind of put that program with Syracuse and all the others and just dump a bunch of dirt and pretend it didn't exist in the world. Right. That was the Greg Schiano attitude toward UConn. And I mean, I think it was the right attitude, but now they're basically just another team. They're just another, this is no longer a threat to Rutgers at any level in football.
Well, they were looking pretty good last year. That probably changes with Jim Mora leaving, right? And that's probably more of a fluke than it is a regular occurrence, right?
Look at the last 15, 20 years, though. My God.
Correct. It's hard for UConn to be sustainably good. They're not in a conference. That always makes it hard. I think for Rutgers, it makes sense in a few reasons. Financially, I know people were a bit surprised about the home and home aspect, and it wasn't a 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 or just a straight up home game. But this does save Rutgers from an appearance fee or a game guarantee, right? The fees cancel each other out the same way they canceled out in the Virginia Tech series, in the BC series, in the Syracuse series, right? So that's positive. They're not paying money to have a team come to town. It's good for the fan base, I think. I haven't seen people jazzed up for a non-conference game in a long time. The Rutgers fans who are, there are people that still wish they were back in the Big East and miss those days and like to reminisce. And it's good to revitalize that. I think UConn fans like it too. People are all jazzed up to and then, the funny part is UConn fans are like, who does Rutgers think it is? It's fans being like, why are they playing UConn? And Rutgers fans are all like, who does UConn think it is? Trying to get a one home and home. They both programs think the other is beneath them, which is always a good sign in a rivalry. And I think Rutgers is in a position where they should comfortably beat UConn, because if they lose to UConn, it's probably a bad sign of where the program is anyway.
Right. Yeah. And I do think a lot of fans, you said fans are jazzed up. I think there are a lot of fans who will walk into that stadium with a great sense of dread that day, just because of, the RU crew, the fans who have seen some of those games against UConn. I mean, Rutgers should have won the Big East one year when they got stomped by UConn. I mean, there's a lot of history with UConn over the years that will come flashing back to people who have been around this program for a while. I think new fans won't care. That's the other thing. Like, I don't think if you just hop the board the Rutgers thing in the Big Ten, you're like, okay, well, UConn, UMass, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, it's better than. It's better than Maine. It's better than better than Monmouth, better than some of the teams, the Howard, Norfolk State, who'll be on the schedule anyway. Yeah, absolutely. So why not Kent State or some MAC team, Ohio? I mean, come on, this is certainly better.
What I like more about this matchup than an Ohio or a Miami of Ohio, the odds of a fight happening in the stands increased by about 50%. No one's getting juiced up for Ohio or Miami of Ohio. Rutgers, UConn. There might be a couple of Italian Americans duking it out in the stands at SHI Stadium or Connecticut and New Jersey have like the highest Italian population in America.
Why is it always us? We're always the one fighting. Like, the Life is Not a Sopranos episode, man. Come on. We can handle these things. Do I have to come in there and fight you over there?
I didn't mean to be to fall into the stereotypes. I just think there are a lot of Italians in the area. I think
Yes,
Italians,
that's fair.
they're Mediterranean. They're Latino adjacent. Their blood runs hot. And you give up a couple touchdowns, you're down 14-0 in Hartford, Connecticut. You just drove there for 2 hours. The beer's $12. The team stinks. They're losing. I think emotions get a little high, and you see some Connecticut guy getting all excited. You want to throw a punch, and it happens. And I think
It happens.
I shouldn't. I think internally, I would be very happy to see it because it would mean fandom is back. People care.
People care. Absolutely. All right. Basketball. Let's hop in there.
Wait. We skipped right over the current quarterback.
Oh,
thing.
yeah. Is there news? Is something to say about that?
There's no news. There's nothing to say about that or the current team, but I figured we'd bring it up anyway.
Yep.
I did ask Greg in the second to last press conference if he could get an answer by the end of spring, if he thinks it drags on. He was non-committal with the answer, which Greg is with most things. But I think if there was a legitimate, back and forth, like it's going to go into training camp, I think he would say that because I don't think you want that kind of just hanging out there. So I don't know if it's done. He said him and Kirk Straka would sit down and talk about it like they always do. It's very possible there's still some lingering doubt going into training camp. It's possible it's sorted out and we won't find out until training camp. But I didn't get the sense that it was like, oh, this is neck and neck. And,
Interesting.
I think there could be someone ahead right now. I won't venture a guess. I won't pretend. We watched 40 minutes of practice, and being totally transparent, I didn't see anybody look much better than the other, right? It's 40 minutes. It's,
of course,
a scrimmage in front of 100 fans or boosters. So take that for what it's worth. But again, this is all heavily speculative because we're not allowed to say anything and we're not allowed to see anything. But just reading the tea leaves, Shianoese, I just get the sense that there might be someone ahead of the other.
Okay. And this is a good transition. Let's do this question first because I thought it was the best question we got this week about the quarterback situation from Jordan E23 on the Discord. If Surace doesn't win the job, is that an indictment of the quote unquote developmental program mantra? And wouldn't it dissuade future good high school quarterbacks from looking at Rutgers? I think that's a great question. And it's why I kind of think that they would want AJ Surace to win this job. And I don't know. I mean, I think you already, if and we just showed the passing numbers, right, for NFL quarterbacks in the history of Rutgers program, and it was a transfer that has the highest. No, it was who was you just told me, Mike McMahon. It was decades ago, the number one quarterback. So it's you already got some strikes against you here. Rutgers has not developed a quarterback in its history. Greg Schiano has not developed a quarterback.
Mike Teal,
really. Since Mike Teal, but since maybe Gary Nova, it's been a long time. He's not developed one in 2.0, right? Certainly. Ethan came here a fully developed quarterback. They plugged him in, plug and play. So that's I guess that's my question to you. Do you think it is an indictment of the program, and will it impact it even further as far as recruiting goes, bringing in the next quarterback?
I will push back slightly on Ethan. He had experience as a starter. He did have some development in Minnesota. I think just to play devil's advocate from the program side, this wasn't – I agree with you. It wasn't farm to table. They didn't get him out of high school and develop him fully. They did help him unlock his potential, I guess. But in the vein of what you're saying,
high school
he didn't come in here in high school.
That's how I think about develop. Yeah, that's what I think of. I think of Gavin Wimsatt. It's a better example of, okay, you brought a guy in here with significant talent. He did not develop and left. Like that's what I think of when I think of developing quarterback. It is taking someone from high school and making him into an NFL player.
Fair point. I just wanted to clarify that point. I think it depends on whether, let's say Lonergan wins the job, right? If he blows AJ away, right, and AJ's playing well, but Lonergan's just better. In that case, I'm not sure the answer to that question is yes. Now, if Lonergan wins a battle and he's the better of two mediocre quarterbacks, then I would agree that it's a sign of, this is a kid who you've been grooming for 2 years, and you would hope that he is ready by his third year, and the transfer you brought in is more of an insurance policy. So it depends exactly how the battle plays out. I don't know if we'll know the answer to that question, but I agree with you with your overall point. In an ideal world, AJ Surace wins the job because it shows Rutgers can develop a quarterback. It shows that the time they invested in him was worth it. And, I think he has a higher ceiling, right? Because Dylan Lonergan is in his fourth year of college. We saw, not exactly what he could be last year at Boston College, but we got a good idea of what he could be. We don't know what AJ could be. He's a mystery box. Right. So if he can get on the field and excel, then you could definitely sell that because it's not like they're excelling at quarterback recruiting. It's a very hard position to recruit, obviously, out of high school. It costs a lot of money. There's a delicate balance between having a freshman quarterback. You don't want to start him, but you also, if you don't give really good quarterbacks starting time early, they're not going to come to your program. So that's a real delicate balance. But in any event, if Rutgers develops AJ Sprays, he starts. They prove they can develop a quarterback. They can go to a high school quarterback and say, we did this with him. We could do it with you. That's why you should come to Rutgers.
Right. Yeah. And the other reason I'm kind of torn on if it matters is the other part of it, because of the portal. And I guess, that this is a perfectly acceptable way to get your quarterback is to pluck someone off another roster. I think, though, as you've seen, it is easier to retain a KJ Duff, to retain a star player than it is to go out and get one. So you would certainly hope the pipeline is going to produce a player at that position, or any position really, but certainly at that position, because it is as expensive as getting a top level center in the basketball portal. So yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they would really want this to work. I'm surprised that you say that they think they've got a guy, or at least that you feel that this is I understand you're in your Shianoology, you're reading the tea leaves. You think that might be the case. Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing both, but I also still think that both quarterbacks will play this year.
I would agree there, and I appreciate your clarification, because I always just want to make sure people aren't
Oh, I know
what we say. I wouldn't be surprised if Lonergan last year at Boston College was a starter for most of the year, but he did go in and out. I don't think the last 2 years, Athan was by far and away the best quarterback on the roster, right? So I think in an ideal scenario, the same thing happens this year. But I'm not quite sure we're at that level yet, but we'll see. Greg will talk again for the first time. The next time Greg talks is in a month at the golf outing. If he tells us who the starting quarterback is then we'll know. If not, I would expect it to drag on to the training camp.
All right, basketball hopping in. Not a lot to talk about. We did not get a chance to break down Will Sidnor. Is it Sidnor or Sidnor?
I think it's Sidnor.
Sidnor. I'm curious what you think about him. Is he a lottery ticket transfer? He didn't play last year, or is he real deal potential? This guy's a Big Ten player. I mean, what's your sense?
Closer to the latter, right? He has proven production at the MAC level. He was the rookie of the year 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. The question obviously is, how much does a year off of competition impact him? You never really know. It's a pretty rare case outside of injury. Like, he wasn't hurt. He had some academic stuff he had to figure out. So, but I do think he'll play a factor. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. Maybe not at the start of the year.
Give me a comp for him. Do you have a comp for him?
Well, he'll play Dylan Grant role, but he'll be much more of like a physical presence, right? He's not like muscular or anything. I don't know if he'll be strong, like a strong power forward, but he'll play in that role. They'll ask him to rebound a lot. They'll ask him to score inside and be physical. And that's what they didn't get out of Dylan Grant. So I think he will fulfill the lack of motor that Dylan Grant had last year. He's not a sharpshooter. He's not a 3-point shooter. He's closer to a Darren Buchanan than he is to a Darren Smith Jr., for example, who's much more perimeter oriented.
All right. So, okay. As it stands right now, and I think we know that Steve Peichel is in Europe trying to find a backup center. Is that the latest? I see Steve like standing on a bridge in Bulgaria or someplace trying to pluck Slovenia is the hot rumor, right? Trying to pluck someone out of a G League there, and maybe a backup point guard. That's kind of what we think is still to come.
So Steve talked to Jerry Carino, and the scuttlebutt is, yes, they're going to Europe for a backup center. I'd heard they were in Germany scouting players 3 months ago or whatever, and they have been in other countries. They have been kind of keeping their eye on the international market. Other teams are doing it. Obviously, Rutgers dipped its toes in the international market last year. To say it was for mixed results would be a bit generous, but that's probably
it really is. It's a different world.
Correct. And you never know, even in a current example, right? You never know how the Dominican League translates to the Big Ten. I'm not sure we'll find out, right? Because Luis Duarte's eligibility situation is still not hammered out. But the point being, that seems like where it's going. And I would say they were probably looking for a starting point guard or a starting caliber point guard, or at the very least a point guard that could play significant minutes, because you don't have a proven point guard, right? You have Lino Mark, who showed flashes, but I wouldn't exactly say he's a proven guy. And Tariq Francis is not really a point guard per se. So I would say those are the two. Is it it might be hard at this point in the portal because things have kind of settled, a lot less movement at this point, and the players that are out there. The portal's closed. There's not going to be more options. So we'll see. But those two seem like the two positions they're trying to fill right now.
If they get, let's just say, a 12-minute backup center, the kind of player we expect you would get at this point, like a better than a Bole kind of backup center. And they
an Obole-esque player in the style of him, a rebounder, a shot blocker, not entirely skilled offensively, because I think Gerdak fills that role. You would hope he's better than Emmanuel Obole. I think we should wait and see who they get before we automatically assume he's better than Obole, because as we said, by the end of the year, he was a decent player. But yes, in that mold is what I would say.
Right. So they get that player and they get a 15-minute a game ball handler. Is this team better than last year? I think yes. I'm going to answer that question. Yes, it is better than last year. Is it markedly better than last year? Is my question to you right where it stands now.
Well, they retained most of the players they wanted, and I would say at most of the positions they got at best equal from last year, and at worst equal from last year, and in my opinion, they got better at every position. So yeah, I think they'll be better than last year. They better be better than last year. They lost 20 games last year. Right. So I don't think they're markedly better at this point, right? I still have some questions about Darren Smith moving up from Central Connecticut State to the Big Ten, right? And if the physicality isn't there for him, is he going to be able to shoot well enough to make up for that? I have questions about Gerdak, right? Like, he will make them better offensively at center, no doubt about it. Can he do the work defensively that they need unless they get a stud defensive center? Will Sidnor hasn't played basketball competitively for a year. Like, is he going to be able to pick up the mantle right away? Is Luis Duarte going to play? Will the freshman back, Mark, Caden Powers, we all expect an improvement, right? We always think improvement is linear. Will they take a step forward? Will Tariq Francis be able to replicate his production from last year or even be even better? Because we expect forward linear progress, as we saw with guys like Dylan Grant, for example. Sometimes that doesn't happen, right? So I still have a lot of questions. I think they'll be better. I'm not quite ready at this point to say I'm 100% certain they won't be, out of the basement of the Big Ten yet. I don't think they'll be the worst team in the Big Ten. I think that's pretty clear. I'm not going to go into next season pulling them last, but I think, I'm not ready to say they'll be middle of the pack quite yet. There's still a lot of questions in the air.
The good news, as you pointed out with your best headline of the week, there's more NCAA tournament slots next year for teams like Rutgers who will be on the bubble. The bubble's bigger. The bubble's going to be it's like opening the doors here to every 3 game above 500 Big Ten SEC team. NCAA expansion's coming, 76 teams. I guess because it's been out there for so long, my reaction was not outrage. It was sort of resignation. I was like, all right, well, enough, just get it. It's headed in that direction. It was going to happen. I think my big picture takeaway is that the college game already is unrecognizable from, the heady days of even a few years ago where Cinderella teams and that was the NCAA tournament. It's already kind of changed. It's gone, right? Like, it's not going back. I think holding on to the idea that, there's going to be a FDU and St. Peter's and all these great stories are going to take over in March. It's just, I hate to say it, but in a lot of ways, it's a professional sport. That's what it is. And those days are it's going to be harder and harder for that to happen. What was your reaction to that news? Were you outraged or were you more like me?
Yeah, like you, because I knew this was coming, right? It's sad, but the NCAA is bleeding money because all the money they made for the last 70 years of exploiting student athletes is now coming to roost. And all that money they made was already in the pockets of all their executives over the years. So now they got to come up with money to pay for all these lawsuits and the future lawsuits and all this stuff. And the only money maker they have left is the NCAA tournament. So they're going to make it 78 now. They're going to make it 96 probably in 5 years. At some point, it's going to turn into what one of our Discord users said, which is a great idea. It's going to become the FA Cup. Every team is in the tournament, and you just play single elimination until starting in February until we get to a champion, which I think would even be better. If you're going to expand, just expand the whole thing and just go crazy. Because at this point, it's worthless. It's watered down. And what I would like to see that I don't think will happen, I think the reverse will happen, is if you make the field. So what they're having now is they're having 52 teams in the field and then the other 24 spots will play a play-in tournament, basically Dayton, but instead of having eight teams in 4 games, you're going to have 24 teams, 24 teams in 12 games.
Yeah,
to get down to 64. If you make those 24 spots for the play-ins, you're not in the NCAA tournament. That's not a tournament bid. You can't put it on a banner. You can't say we made the tournament this year. It barely counts the first 4 in Dayton. It doesn't count now. It's a disgrace. It almost, to me, the interesting thing now is for a place like Rutgers, where making the tournament was something you hoped for but isn't an expectation. Now you got to make the tournament, if not every year, every other year, because there's no excuse. There are more teams that make the tournament than don't make the tournament at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't do what I think a lot of coaches hope it will do, and it's take the pressure off. And I don't think it does that at all. I think you're completely right. Now it's just going to be, you were in that. It's just like, hey, that's not really NCAA tournament. Like, it's not the same. It's just not the same thing. It's going to be there should be layers of making the NCAA tournament. You're going to have to get through that weekend. People are not going to be, satisfied like Auburn one game over 500. Some of these teams that are going to make it. I mean, it's just going to be, who cares? It's not going to be exciting. None of these teams win anything. Like, that's the next thing too. Like, one of these teams that get in, they're going to have to win it to make that count, to make that, make that matter it's just, I don't think it's going to have the attendant effect that I think a lot of people because there's a reason why all these conferences, all these coaches support it. Right. And I don't think it's going to have that intended effect.
Yes. So to be clear, it's going to be one game just like it is now, right? So you only have to win one game to get in, but that doesn't matter because the fact you got into that 2014 field is because there's so many spots.
Yeah. Right.
And it does, for all the people that care about Cinderella, it does hurt because all the 16 seeds, every 16 seed will be in the play-in and half of the 15 seeds will be in. So teams that used to automatically make the tournament, if it was the right perfect amount of teams, which is 64, now they got to fight for their spot. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about this gives them an opportunity to play on national TV and gives them some money for a TV slot. Yeah. Who cares? They just want to be in the tournament. They just want to have a chance. If that's what the conference tournaments are for, that's when they have their national TV spots and they have their play. They already earned it by going into the tournament. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on how the tournament could go. Obviously, none of it's going to matter because the bottom line is they need to make more TV inventory so they can make more money. They started selling out and now they're going to sell advertisements for alcohol. They're 5 years away from just saying, screw it, we need the money. DraftKings, we're going to call it the DraftKings NCAA tournament. And, pretty soon there's going to be nothing to sell out to. But this is just the way it's going. Now, from a Rutgers perspective, because that's what people care about, they don't want to hear my ranting and raving about the sad, decaying of our society. The thing is, it does help Rutgers in terms of getting into the tournament. It makes it easier. It does make it more realistic. It does give them more margin for error. It dilutes the regular season for the sport, but on an individual level, it does give you a better chance of getting to the tournament. The reverse side for that, as I mentioned, for a coach like Steve Pikiell, especially this year, who's on a pretty hot seat, it makes the necessity to make the tournament even higher, right? We were saying he's got to be on the bubble. He's got to look competitive. I think you got to make the tournament now.
100%. Absolutely. That's what I agree totally. It changes that changes that conversation because now how many Big Ten teams will make that tournament? What is it?
At least one more. Let's say it was 8. I don't remember what it was last year, but they've been averaging 8, 9, 10. Let's say it's 8 to 9, right? Now it's going to be 9 to 10. It's going to be at least one more spot because these extra spots are going to Tulsa and all these mid-major teams. They're going to the Big Ten teams that are 15 and 16 or whatever, which is even more infuriating.
I thought Indiana was one of the teams that people had in there. Yeah, I mean,
Seton Hall would have made it this year if it was the current format. And look, Rutgers would have made it in 23 as well if in this current format because they were the second team out at that point. But that's a whole other thing. Anyway, I think it does add significantly more pressure to the coaches. I think for fans it's great because you have more reason to believe your team will make the tournament, right? And I think if you're a fan,
I don't know, maybe I don't know. And as someone, I'm going to give the credit to this for Matt Norlander made this point. That February basketball, it's either you're watching the games because you want to see great players and Duke and Carolina, Kentucky, they're going to be there. Or if you're a sicko, you're watching that because you want if Pitt loses tonight, they are out. They're in the last 4 out. Like that, you're watching the other side of that. Like there's some compelling stuff there. And if it becomes like everybody's in that mix, and it's like, oh, I don't know, Auburn, I don't know, it kind of takes away some of that part. I think that part of it's really interesting. Like, are people going to be still going to Joe Lunardi's or all the bracketology to see those bottom 4 teams if they're they're just truly. It's really a good question. I don't know if it helps the fans in some ways. I think it takes away some of the fun of that time of year. Late February is all about that.
College basketball fans in general, I agree. I just mean Rutgers fans, people who care about Rutgers basketball. It's better for them because the chances are higher. I agree with you. The thing is, though, like those college basketball sickos, what if it's the teams playing for the 63rd or 64th spot, they really care. Now they're just going to care who's playing for the 75th, 76th spot. They'll still care. It's the same thing with college football, where when they expanded the playoff, it's like, oh, you've ruined the integrity of the regular season because now not every game means as much, which I agree with. Right. I agree with the sentiment you just shared and that one, because back in the day in college football, if you lost the game, your season was over. So every game mattered so much more. But, people move on. They care about the sport so much that, the stakes change, but they'll find a way to make it compelling. But I agree with you. I think that's kind of the problem with some of American sports like the NBA and NHL is that the regular season doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The games don't matter. That's why I think the EuroLeague in basketball is so much better, because every single game makes an impact. Every game matters. In the Premier League, every game matters. In America, it's more of a, go out with your family, watch a regular season game. It doesn't matter. The games don't matter until April. Anyway, I'm done ranting today.
All right. Let's want to take some questions and wrap it up. We had some more good questions. Basketball. Does the 5-in-5 rule impact us at this point in the portal season? What's going on with that one?
No, there was some thought, because before they had a meeting on Monday to really crystallize the way it was going, there was some thought that maybe it would be retroactive, which would create a whole can of worms where guys who ended their career this year could try to come back. The Derek Simpsons of the world, he's a perfect example for the Rutgers crowd. Like, he would be able to come back another year, and then there would be a whole huge pool of players that teams would want to wait for. So when that's official, they can start recruiting those players. It sounds like it's not retroactive. It's starting next year. We can argue the merits of that or not. I think it's the right decision, but now it means that the players in the portal are the players in the portal. The players on the international market are the players in the international market. There's no need to wait. So I think that, to answer the question, it doesn't really impact Rutgers.
Gotcha. Okay. Some more basketball questions. I like this one. Transport the best Rutgers teams of the Pikel era to today. How much do you think those teams would have commanded in NIL? It's good. I mean, obviously, Ron Harper Jr. would have gotten a pretty big payday. I don't know. Would Geo Baker played 5 years of Rutgers? It's great. I mean, there's a lot of things like, Cliff would have been an in-demand player. He already was an in-demand player at the very end. Certainly had he become, before people knew what his ceiling was, like when he was a freshman and you could see he was going to develop into, you didn't know, like he could have been David Wright could have been really good player. And he was a good college player, but he was not a real good college player. I think he would have commanded a lot of money. What do you think?
It depends what the market you're talking about, right? Because Cam Spencer was he was a big time
of course, yes,
transfer, but he got pennies compared to what they're getting today, right? Like Cam Spencer would have been a $2 million player if he went to the market this year after his year at Rutgers. Cliff would have been a $2.5 million, $3 million player, $4 million player if he entered the portal this year for his last season versus when he did. Ron Harper Jr., if he entered the portal this offseason, $2.5 million, $3 million easily, I would guess. He's a 40% 3-point shooter with a lot of willing defender. Geo Baker, I don't know. Obviously more than $1 million. I don't know. Paul Mulcahy, that's a good question as well. I don't know. But certainly I would say that any of the top 7-8 players under Pikel, if they enter the portal with one more year this offseason, easily $1.5, $2 million. Yeah. It would be an interesting exercise to see. We could do this a whole other episode to not to drag this on, but let's say they had this year's budget, $9 million, and they could take their pick of the litter of the best players under Pikel. How many players could they realistically get before they run out of money?
That would be fun. I'd have to think about that one. Yeah, it'd be tough. It would really be tough. I think you'd run out of pretty quick. You certainly could not. You could not. You'd lose half of them with that even.
Right. Back of the napkin math. I think by 3 players, you're already cutting it tight, because Cliff for 3, and that's being generous. Cliff Omori for $3 million, Cam Spencer for $2.5 million, Ron Harper Jr. for $2.5 million. You're already at 8, right? Yeah. So you're cutting it close.
And then you're begging Geo Baker, the man, one of the people responsible for this. Can you take a hometown discount, Geo? It'd be great. Can you imagine? We'd love to keep you around. I know you successfully lobbied for this and were one of the pioneers of this thing, but take less to stay at Rutgers. Yeah, that's hard. That's a hard one. That's great. Yeah.
We'll have a
All
summer
right.
episode about this. This is a good.
It's fun. Good idea. All right. Some more questions. Let me see if we have any more. When will Rutgers, from Darth Schrader on the Discord, when will Rutgers football finally defeat a ranked opponent? Many, myself included, are tired of waiting. Does it happen this year?
It's a good question. I think we actually did this exercise. Like, I think USC is a good opportunity because they'll be ranked. It'll be early in the season. They're going across the country. The question obviously is Rutgers defense going to be good enough to stop USC's offense? That's a big question. Michigan might be ranked when they go there, and Michigan's the first year under Kyle Whittingham, a bit of a shaky program after what's happened in the offseason. You never really know.
I'm surprised that Michigan be ranked, but you could be right.
Right. Well, that's the perfect sweet spot of a team that they could beat, because if Michigan is ranked, you would think they're in the 20 to 25 range. That's the kind of ranked team Rutgers could beat. Rutgers is not beating, for example, Indiana if they're top 10. They're probably
Michigan plays Rutgers before. I'm looking at Michigan's schedule before they play Rutgers. Indiana, Penn State, Minnesota, Iowa, Oklahoma. They're not going to be ranked. No chance.
Probably not. I'm just trying to game out the possibilities. Wisconsin probably isn't going to be ranked because Luke Fickell will probably get fired. Nebraska maybe could be a bottom end of the top 25 if they, they're Nebraska. So if they're halfway decent, they might have a chance of sneaking in. If that's the situation, they might have a chance, although they've never beaten Nebraska in the modern era. Penn State, they almost beat them last year, I guess. I doubt it. But
yeah, right. USC is your best chance. How's that? That's you're early on. They'll be ranked in that game. Let's see. Well, they're playing before I say this.
They're playing nobody. I think it's Fresno State and some other team. They're playing nobody's.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So they'll be ranked. That's your best shot because you're guaranteed they'll be ranked. And they're probably, although they have not in that game out there. Once they get those fast receivers speeding around you, it's tough, but it'll be here. So it's different. Okay. That's a good shot.
We could spin it however we want. The thing is, two things make it hard for me to believe. One, the matchup is just terrible. They're so much faster, so much more athletic, so much more talented that I think that no matter how good of a coaching job you do in that game, I just think the Jimmies and Joes will overpower them. And two, as much as the cross-country thing could be an impact, I can't get that UCLA homecoming game out of my head where UCLA stunk. They flew across the country. It was a noon game, 9 a.m. local, and they it was a 3-point game. But my point is, offensively, they destroyed Rutgers defense.
Yeah. There's a chance there's not many ranked. Indiana, you would, of course, they will be ranked. But Michigan might not. At Northwestern, at Maryland, they're not going to be ranked. Wisconsin's not going to be ranked. There's a good chance Nebraska's not ranked. You might not have as many opportunities this year. It's interesting. As much as we talk about this schedule, tough schedule. It's not murderer's rows. There's opportunities to win games next year.
We'll reassess in August when we have a better idea of this team and we get to read all the preview magazines and all the other teams, whatever. Yeah. But right now, if you had to guess, yes or no, will Rutgers beat at least one ranked team this year and end the current 17-year drought?
Is it really 17 years? My goodness. Put up there's the man who saw the old photo of me. That guy saw Rutgers beat a ranked team. Right now I say no, because it doesn't look like there's a lot of opportunities. I just don't can. Michigan's not going to be. Penn State, probably not. Maybe that's at Penn State though, late in the year. Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah.
I agree. Again, I think that they have to play a team in the 17 to 25 range to really have a chance because they're not beating a top 10 team. I don't really see that on the schedule. So I would say no because of that. Not necessarily because of what quality I think the team is. I think independent of that, I just don't think they're going to have enough chances to do it.
All right. Those are most of the questions there. Thank you for asking them and for being in the Discord. All right. What else we got? Anything? We got, I have lacrosse and then I have change needed ? That can't be good. What's going on with the lacrosse program? It's not what they wanted.
Yes. So they had another rough season. They went 8-7. So it's a winning season, but this is a program that has been used to making the NCAA tournament and being one of the faces of the athletic department since they've joined the Big Ten. This is the 4th straight year they don't make the tournament. I am pulling up I tweeted it out and I should have had this up again, but I don't. This is the 4th straight season they don't make the tournament. I'm sorry for doing this. This is a terrible radio, as we know. The main thing is that Brian Brecht, from what we understood, the last contract I got in August said that it would expire this June. My understanding in talking to people this week is that his contract runs through 2027. I don't know. I don't have the answers yet because I haven't got my hand on that contract yet. I don't know if the answer is, I got an old contract when I opened in August, or if there has been a contract extension since Kelly Zinn has joined and he got another year. But the point being is he still has time on his contract, and my understanding is he will be given another year. He's produced at the program. He's gone to a Final Four, and I think he falls in the same bucket as almost every other coach at Rutgers that Kelly Zinn wants to give him another year with NIL support to turn the ship around. They did have injuries is always a convenient excuse. They did have a rash of injuries this year. I don't have a lot of lacrosse analysis for you, but my understanding is the face-off was horrendous. And in lacrosse, bit of a weird sport. If you don't have a face-off guy, you don't have a team because you can just lose every face-off and blitzed before you get the ball back. So that's my understanding of the situation. Once I get the contract, it will be uploaded to our Discord. I will have the information for you guys. But now we could. All that being said, is change needed? Do you? I'm
well,
sure
this is a bigger question. Like, is this a sport where you're going to invest in? Eventually, we're going to have to find one where the answer is no. Like we know they're investing in wrestling. We know they're investing in women's basketball. We should be talking about that and the what else. I mean, obviously, they've got money for players like that. He's built they're going to be significantly better than they were last year. So of course they were terrible last year, but they're going to be like market improvement, you would think, just based on the players they're bringing in. I mean, like you can kind of see it. Like, okay, well, there you go. They've got a team now. So clearly they're investing in that. They don't have enough money to invest in everything. Is lacrosse going to be one of these things where you're like, okay, this is our ceiling. We're happy with it. He does a pretty good job with the resources we give him, and that's it. Like, I honestly don't know. And it's funny because lacrosse, there are like a lot of like sneakily influential lacrosse people in that orbit who might have something to say about that and might be like, no, you guys, we can't. This is not good enough for us. But the same token, it's certainly not a high profile sport. It's not, they do not see, they're not filling the stands for stuff. It's going to be really hard to get to the level of a John Hopkins and Maryland and all these programs in the East. I don't know. That's a fascinating question.
The lacrosse alum base is not as deep as some, but they are more invested than most, I would say.
Yep.
And they have deeper pockets than most on average. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those two things point to a sport that does have more potential. The Big Ten only has 6 teams, right? And outside of Maryland, which is a national superpower, right? Like the battle for the second best Big Ten team is always kind of back and forth. So Rutgers, in theory, could be that. And once you get into the tournament, like the ceiling to get to a Final Four is there. I got the numbers up. So since they reached the Final Four in 2022, they've gone 30-29, 6-19 against Big Ten teams. Just not competing with your conference mates, not doing particularly well since then. And look, I don't think that's particularly bad enough where you have to make a change, but I think it's trending in the wrong direction. And I think you have to show some proof of concept because I think there is potential with this program. I think it's a sport in the Big Ten, particularly, that's important. I think the lacrosse fan base really cares. And from what I understand, they really like Brian Brecht. I think Brian Brecht has the support of the most important people in the lacrosse orbit, which is what matters for that sport, right? But they really care and they want to win. They believe it could be good. I think if you're going to have a cutoff of teams that you should invest in, that you really care about, men's lacrosse has to be right at the line. I think it's above that line for right now. But to your point, there's only so much money and so many teams you can invest in. And I don't know if you have more lacrosse stuff, but to go on to this, like Rutgers had its Giving Day on Friday, and Greg Brown, Motorola CEO, pledged $1 million match. He would match every donation up to $1 million. So you would think that at the very least, Rutgers would get $1 million in donations to match the $1 million. They extended Giving Day for 24 hours. They had a 2-day Giving Day, and they didn't get to $1 million for the athletic.
Are you serious? My goodness.
That's not. And that's further proof of Rutgers having the shallowest donor base and least donor support in the entire Big Ten since they've joined by a significant margin. And that's proof of they have a long way to go in that direction. I will say men's lacrosse and gymnastics were 2 teams that significantly passed their goals. Their goals weren't exactly as high as football, obviously, or men's basketball, but they clearly have some support from those alumni bases. So something to think about.
It's always Greg Brown too. Like there's like the same 10 people. Yeah, that's what comes back to. Oh, Greg Brown's gonna break out his wallet again. We'll match it. Okay, it's like it's yeah.
Which makes it hard, right? Because you can only go to the same well so many times before it goes dry, right? And I mean, good for Greg Brown. Listen, Greg Brown is one of the few people on earth who has $1 million to throw away and doesn't really. I don't know if we'll notice it leaving his bank account, to be honest with you. But it is something, and I think it's another clear sign that Rutgers needs to find more money. They need to find more fans. Now we're back at the chicken and the egg. How do you get more fans and money without winning? And how do you win without getting more fans and money?
Right.
Tough spot for Kelly's in to figure out.
All right. Anything else?
Well, Sporting had a nightmare week.
No.
But people have heard me talk about stuff they don't care about enough, so we can skip that.
Yeah. Again, this is going to be a soccer podcast soon because we're like 42 days away from you walking to the. That's going to be your next award-winning story. Brian Fonseca walks to New York, New Jersey Stadium for the World Cup. Gets run over by a semi on Route 17 trying to cross.
Brian Fonseca gets a new mugshot as he's arrested for trying to walk across Route 17 to MetLife Stadium.
I'd like to
add
that
mugshot. That mugshot will be my headshot for the award-winning APSE next year.
That's going to be because so when you get hit by the semi, that's going to be the photo that the news, like ESPN, puts up like in memoriam, and we're all going to be sitting there when we do the podcast, like, oh, poor Brian, man, he didn't get the mugshot in time. He just couldn't get it done. What a shame.
Instead of me dying, can I have can I get mangled or something? Can I live like in this fantasy world we're doing? Can I
put up? Let's add on a positive note. Put up the old photo of you. Let's add on before we go. There you go. That's what I'm going to bring Matt in. If you're listening on Spotify, I'm sorry. Just try to come to the very end of this on YouTube, just so you too can feel. You can feel the buzz, the energy, the virility, the
joie de vivre.
The joie de vivre, like the collar open, I just wish you had just a gold cross there that would finish it for me, but okay. All right. On that note, we're going to sign off here. Did the best we could on April 30th. Thank you for listening. We'll be back who knows when to talk about who knows what. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldridge Hotel. Head to nj.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.